Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Yeah, when your laptop decides it's going to restart itself just because it had a software update while you were sleeping, and then you're trying to
Yeah.
get the thing to hurry itself along, and it's tick-tocking with that little beach ball of death. Anyway, what
It
happened
is.
this
I
morning?
know.
That's why we're a bit late. Anyway, good morning, everybody. Ben was saying a minute ago we've got to bring joy to people's lives. I couldn't agree more. Feeling a bit like Santa Claus this morning.
Yeah, Gareth, but the part of the conversation, which is why I didn't really want to have it, but we're waiting for you, is that I don't know how to. I've
You,
never
you
felt
don't.
so. I've never felt so. I'm I'm all out of love. I'm all out of love this week. To quote an old song.
Yeah.
That's Air Supply. That song.
Yeah, I have no air supply
Jesus.
even. Yeah, it's been a bit of a shit of a week. Like my business partner
Why?
got COVID. My coach has
Oh
COVID.
shit.
So
Oh.
people who are like hanging out with now have COVID, and they're now going to sit at home and just be achy.
Ugh.
Well,
Yeah, that's really shit. I know so many people who've got it too, and I'm not the kind of person who's taken this as seriously as others. And I know Bulelo, I mean, you've genuinely suffered. You're a COVID survivor. I mean, what can we say?
Yeah, it's
You-
true. It's true.
you made
a
it.
hero. And a hero.
You-
And
yeah.
Zoba
Think-
strong.
yeah.
I mean, like coming back from the dead. Yeah, sorry guys, I didn't mean to be the guy who says the C word straight away. But like, what the fuck else do we talk about nowadays? Have you noticed how every conversation basically is this? And then you think to yourself, I don't want to have the conversation. But then what do you talk about? There's no joy to talk about stuff.
So I've flat out banned it at some gatherings and when I've
Good.
gone for lunch or whatever with people, I've flat out banned discussions around COVID. But you actually can't avoid it. And some people are seriously getting off on it. I don't know why. If it's some sort of deep seated attraction to doom, because there are people like that, right?
Yeah, I guess.
And for example, this one person I know, every single time that he talks to me, he has to give me an obituary on like who's died. It's like reading the obituary paper, which I remember they used to print like the names of all the people who died the previous day, and
that was a big thing for old people, huh?
Old people, yeah, they used to read that,
look who's
and
died.
oh no, Jessica's dead, and oh no, Phyllis, and oh no, whoever. I mean, what's a real old person's name? Rose. Rose is dead. I always loved Peterson. Now Gladys is dead. What a pity. Obviously, it was COVID, but that's all people talk about now. And I had to get a rundown yesterday of which a friend of mine who doesn't even live in this country is telling me which of his former colleagues in his profession are in ICU. I'm like, why am I involved in this conversation?
Yeah. But it's like, if you think about it, if you're in an empty room, right, and a dog comes in and takes a shit, the only thing you're going to talk about is the shit the dog just took. So right now, life feels like this empty room with this big steaming piece of shit in the corner. So everyone's going to go, oh, look, it ate corn, or, oh, look, it's symmetrical, or the conversation will be about the shit. It hurts.
Yeah, I mean the other thing that's going on here is that the three of us, and we may be different to the majority of people in this respect, but we may also be very similar to other people. Some people don't like things they can't control. I'll put my hand up for that. I'm not I don't play nicely with people who who I don't get along with. It's not that I want to control people, but I want to be able to control the circumstances, at least to some degree. I want to be responsible for the outcome in some way, And this thing feels like, in the beginning, if you looked after yourself, if you were physically healthy, if you if you did a bit of exercise, if you weren't morbidly obese, and you didn't go around looking for trouble, you didn't go around like mouth kissing sick people, you'd be okay. Yeah. But it seems like this third wave thing, whatever's going on at the moment, and I think it's got a lot to do with winter, to be perfectly frank. So if we're going to get into this, let's get into it. But, in winter, people do get sick, and pneumonia doesn't care what the original cause was. Like if you've got pneumonia, which is the reason so many people are in hospital at the moment, is because their lungs are actually fucked up because of something. It could start with COVID, or it could start with the ordinary old flu. Remember we used to get that before COVID? People used to get flu. Yeah. And then people were They were out of work for like a week or so because they were sick with something. Now, I had a head cold on Monday or Sunday or whatever, and I did this test on Tuesday, the COVID test, not because I was paranoid or because, like so many other people, I wanted to be able to have a story about COVID. It was because I did not want to pass it on to someone else. I think that's the only thing that bothered me. It's the only thing that was in my head.
Well, you also want to know if you can still go and open mouth kiss strangers.
Yes, true. Well, I love to do that, especially like homeless people on the street. That's my favorite thing to do because I know how much they need the love. So I did the stupid thing. When it came back negative, then I had everybody telling me, no, but it's not 100%. It's definitely, you got to be so careful with these tests. That you did the wrong test. You should have done the PCR test because that's the one that. God. So I mean, some people want this thing badly because then they can be part of the conversation. Stupid.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
If you're going to die, here's the thing. If you're going to die, you're going to die. And I don't want to sound completely callous about this because I know there are people going through a huge amount of shit right now. And some people have lost their family, friends, husbands, wives, significant others, whatever it might be. And obviously, I feel for those people. I'm not a complete monster. But if it's your time, you've got to be practical about this. If it's your time, it's your time. And it could be flu. It could be a car accident. It could be anything these days. I mean, really, the natural state of humanity is not to live forever. Who got this idea into our heads? I saw an article the other day. As someone who's an optimist, and I've always said I want to live forever, but I'm very practical about this. We're not going to live forever. Our bodies can't. This article was called Why We Won't Live Forever. I thought that's a strange angle to take because as far as I can tell, there isn't any human who has lived forever. So why would the headline in the article be Why We Won't Live Forever instead of no surprises here. This is how humans, you've got a maximum lifespan of like 100. The point of the article was you could, if science and medicine and technology help you, you could maybe make it to an upper ceiling of 150. But after that, everything starts collapsing anyway because your cells just don't know what the hell's going on after 100. Just look at Joe Biden. I mean, the guy's struggling to figure out whether he's a teapot or a hockey stick.
Too badly, yeah.
Now, I don't know if I want, even if you find a way to keep me looking fairly youthful and even feeling fairly youthful, I don't think that a 150-year-old brain cell is necessarily firing at optimal rates. So just make the most of what you got,
Yeah, no, exactly, Gareth. We're not designed for it. I mean, I'm 39. I've just woken up. I look like horse shit. So can you imagine what I look like in 40 years?
Oh, my God.
I'll look like I'll look like the back of a scrotum. And why would you want to keep on that?
Well, even the front of a scrotum is a horrible thing to look like. Wow, forget about the back. I mean, the back. Whoever sees the back of a scrotum, frankly, nobody ever sees that. It must be horrible.
Not enough people.
I would like to think that no one should see it, but I mean, if it's it's probably a rough thing to be. But also, I think without saying too doom and gloom, I'd love to take the conversation away from this shit. But we are just obsessed with how we all think we're so precious. Like, I live forever, I can't be taken down by illness. I'm so special. Not really.
Yeah. Meanwhile, listen, the comments are very funny. I mean, Keenan says, morning team, the only reason I want COVID is for that 10 days leave. What are you talking about, Keenan? You're at home, working from home anyway. I mean, what do you need leave for? The last thing I want is more leave. If you leave me alone at home for 10 days without doing the show or without doing meetings or whatever else I've been doing. Yesterday I was at the office briefly. I'd go mad. I'd go crazy. It's enough already.
Yeah, Keenan, what the fuck do you do? Why do you hate your job so much?
No, because
you hate your life.
90% of work colleagues, maybe he works at a corporate, and 90% of people in an office are terrible.
There's no offices right now, though.
So I feel you there, Keenan.
No, Keenan's sitting at home. He's probably knocking one off about every 3 hours because there's no office right now. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
there hasn't been offices for a while. Even before Cyril's.
Maybe that's enviable. Angus says, we used to call the newspaper notices that the oldies read every day hatched, matched, and dispatched. Yeah, because they used to have births, marriages, and deaths.
But how cool? But how cool? Like actually, when you dial it back a bit, right? How cool that used to be something you look forward to, because that means that life was simpler. Like you weren't so jaded about all the shit that news networks throw at you.
Well,
you could actually get a kick out of reading that.
This is it. And I spoke to someone yesterday who has not. They've deliberately stepped out of social media. He doesn't have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, any of that stuff. None of it. He's just cut it all out of his life. I'm sort of hearing myself a little bit there. Is one of you doing a bit of feedback, or is the monitor in the studio on or something?
No.
Sorry. And he's so happy. He's so happy without that stuff. He said, you know what? He can't afford a Ferrari now, but if he could, he wouldn't tell anyone and he'd buy it anyway. And he wouldn't put it anywhere. No one would ever know he had one except the people who might happen to see him on the road. But
these people will take us forward in life, Gareth. This is it. We must learn their ways.
Yeah, these are the ways. You know what happens? We'll talk to Dr. Hanan about this. I've been throwing forward to this the whole week. This idea of compassion fatigue. Like there's only so much energy you have in your body. There's only so much mental and emotional energy you can muster to feel bad for people when they tell you that they've either had COVID. And frankly, if you're putting stuff up and you're not in ICU, and if you're putting stuff up on social media, then you're not that sick. So what are you doing it for? And if you're doing it and you're just attention seeking, and there are actually people who are so sick they can't type something up on their phone, then you're just adding to the compassion fatigue, because the people who really need our compassion are too sick to post shit on Facebook. So why are you doing it?
Well, look, everyone's looking for touch points. So everyone uses social media for various reasons. We know this, and we all need either endorphins or just attention. But a friend of mine a while ago actually made a very good point. He said, whenever my phone rings, something bad is about to happen. I mean, something's gone bad at home. Yeah. Like there's an issue with the kid at school, or something's gone wrong at work, or one of the building sites, whatever. So you imagine that you've got this, imagine the anxiety, right? That every single day of your life, this little thing that you carry around with you all day.
It's like an early warning system.
Has an ability to make you feel shit every time it makes a noise. Like this is the Black Mirror that we watch so often. Like this is the actual thing happening right now. So like the moment your phone rings, you get like this injection of cortisol into your life, and that happens every hour. Like, and if you get a number that you think, oh shit, this could be something else. No, it's like the DA's fucking automated. Hi, have you considered? So, like it's just it's so bad.
Oh, listen, I want to ask you both. Let's just change tack here, because really, there's only so much COVID you could talk about. You're both fit individuals. Bulelo, you haven't been running, but you've been doing gym. And Ben, you've been training at home, so it doesn't really affect you. But I've heard from lots of people who, are trying to do their exercise. A lot of people who were in a really good place because despite COVID, they've been using the time to get themselves to feel a bit better and to get their bodies in better shape. With the gyms closing, for a lot of people, that's no longer possible. I've heard that there are lots of underground gyms operating, which is great. I think that, breaking the rules of a dumb and tyrannical government, and a capricious and tyrannical government, which we discussed yesterday in the Burning Platform, that's your duty as a good citizen. You should be breaking those rules. If this disease is spreading as fast as it is, and so many people are sick, then you may as well make your life in between all these obituaries as meaningful as possible. So if you're running an underground gym, good for you. We're not going to bust you on this show. But what are the best ways for people to not drop backwards in these 14, if it's only going to be 14 days, in these 14 days? Like, what else can you do? Because we are still allowed, like, thank you, Cyril. We're allowed to run, we're allowed to walk, we're allowed to do those things. And people can obviously do a bit of, what do they call it when you throw some weights around, use your body weight and all that stuff? What is it called, Ben?
Calisthenics, plyometrics. There's various things. Well, look, Gareth, I mean, I've lost my mind, really. I mean, I'll be open about it. I'm a different person. I function differently because COVID's like all this stuff has fucked me up a lot. And most people lose their mind. They either shit their pants, they become alcoholics, they do other weird things. I don't know. But for me, I've gone full into this like survival mode of becoming stronger and fitter. Like yesterday, I had an absolutely kind of shitty long admin day. Right, it was long. I only got home at like, I don't know, 6:37 or whatever. Like most people would probably sit down, have a glass of wine, make dinner. I still managed, like on autopilot. I did this fucking crazy push-up routine thing with a weight vest. I didn't even think about it. Like I'm just attuned to it now. Yeah, but I did it because I knew that dinner, which was obviously very healthy, was going to take 40 minutes to cook. So it gave me a 40-minute workout. No excuses. My body is now attuned to this. And I just thought, like, this isn't because I'm incredible. This isn't because I'm like a fucking Jedi. It's because of conditioning now. And this whole time in the game thing. I did a blog post about it on Instagram. Well, that's what I use Instagram for. And I just thought, like, this was the most positive thing I could possibly take out of this time, is that I've now got to a point where I'm doing things automatically that are good for me. I know I've lost my mind, and I talk about this a lot, but it was a great reflection of how I can never be another way, because you can go running, sure, go cycling, all that kind of stuff. Cool.
So what you're saying is it's way more up here than it is here.
Yes. So you've got to take this downtime. You've got to take all of these times just to. There are no excuses anymore. Like if you have this thing, then your default fuck out moment, if I can call it something, is a healthy endeavor. So I'm not sure if that made a lot of sense. As I say, I'm mostly out of my mind with these things nowadays, but like, it's just so important to not do the token thing. Like, oh, I've got 2 weeks, I will try skipping or whatever. Like, really actually have an adult plan towards this. Like, plan it like Keenan wants to have 10 days to masturbate away from work. Cool. But it could also be
salami.
It could also be 10 days where he understands the dynamics of a squat. You know, and like working on those kind of things, because that is the only thing that will save you in this world. That when things go bad, this is your fallback.
And you don't need a whole room full of equipment and weights and things. Nah. You can do this stuff fairly easily without any of that. I mean, prisoners do.
Exactly.
Some guys come out of prison more focused and in better shape than some of us on the outside.
Oh, but that's also the fight off rape. But I mean, like, you've got to understand, like, if civilization really, really fucks out, right?
That's a good motivation, Ben.
Yeah, exactly. It's always going to be a carrot. But guys, if you think about it, and again, I know this sounds dramatic, but if civilization really fucks up, what do you want to be? Do you want to have time on your hands, or do you want to be strong? Like, be hard to kill. You know, be someone that can run.
That's exactly right.
Be someone that can round up a group and get shit happen.
Yeah, and I think an important thing is that, and I don't know if I was speaking to you about it, Gareth, but I know I get kind of preachy about health, lifestyle, and kind of where Ben's going.
So I do too. Yeah, I get you.
So okay. I don't even. I think people need to hear this shit right now more than ever.
Well, my one thing now, and I had a conversation with my old lady, and she said I need to lay off because people need to enjoy their lives. But for me, I'm not big on utilitarian nature. Is before you start this, like Ben's way down the line, before you even get into this thing, is stop thinking you must enjoy health. Like this idea that no, I'm not doing it because I don't enjoy it. No, I don't like push-ups, so I'm not doing. Like, take yourself out of it. The health thing should be non-negotiable. You know, people will do anything for that Friday glass of wine, non-negotiable. That I will not miss. But when it comes to their own health, but it's because at the center of it, people just care about enjoyment so much. Like life is not just about enjoying stuff. Yeah. There is a price to pay for everything. And if you're not willing to like kind of commit like that, I don't know if I can talk to you anymore. I'm sorry. That's where I am now.
No, but you're so right. But the thing is, just to kind of add to that, people are so obsessed with tick box enjoyment. Like the entire week revolves around that Friday Chardonnay. Your entire week could be so much more fun if it involved, I don't know, a 5K run with 5 different people, or you just got a new personal best on a certain weight you've just pulled. Like, there's this really incredible guy out there called Jack Lotter. You might know him. He's what you call him on.
Let's talk to him next week. Actually,
he's what you would call perhaps a polarizing character, and So like, I'm very happy with what I do. Jack says, you just come try this and try that. And I was like, look, Jack, I don't really have a need for this kind of training. I'm not knocking it. It just doesn't suit me for right now. And he said to me, you know what? Nobody thinks they want a sports car until they have a sports car. And it's like, but it's your point. Like people think like, for me, fun is a pizza and red wine. It's a piece of fun. But have you ever been in great shape and like done something very different, like gone for a hike in the morning without having a hangover? That's fucking cool.
Well, I mean, this is where you got to go to the Jordan Peterson catalog of ideas, and he always says that meaning and purpose are not derived from enjoyment and from happiness. Meaning and purpose are actually derived from difficulty, from challenge, from arduousness, from doing something that is hard. Because if it was easy to do, it wouldn't be that meaningful. And really, exactly. By that, to you, it could be reading a book. That's hard for some people. Hard for them to concentrate for an entire book. For some people, it's exercise. For other people, it's a combination of of being responsible for others. If you're in a family, or you're financially responsible for somebody else. Pets. It could be about cleaning up around you, making sure that you have surroundings that are pleasant to be in. And for other people, it's going through the really tough things with an attitude of like, afterwards, I'm going to feel like I accomplished something. That doesn't happen with happiness or comfort.
But having said that, I think an important thing is we're not all the same. Like we are pretty, self-indulgent three and pretty capable humans. Is that for some people?
All people are self-indulgent when you're not looking.
Sure. No, I agree.
You get varying levels of honesty around that.
No, well said. I couldn't agree more. But I think sometimes if you are a wife, a mother, a brother, and for me, I'm a son, is the best version of me for my mom is the healthiest version of me. So then I make it non-negotiable. So for me, I want my mom for the rest of her life to have the best version of me.
You don't think you have a bit of an Oedipus complex with this constant talk of your mom?
Oh, well, I mean, what else do I talk about? I got to talk about my reality.
Fucking weirdo. All right. How about, I need to ask you two this because Ben's got to go, but Cape Town, this is Cape Town that only Capetonians can love right now because it's so shit there, right? And everybody always puts pictures up and shares there. You'll notice there's no sharing of Lions Heads runs and people on the boardwalk right now, people who are taking a jog through, some nature reserve. None of that shit's happening on Instagram or on any other social media because Cape Town right now is terrible. Both of you have lived there. Just explain to people outside of Cape Town, because the ones in it are not honest about it, how terrible and how absolutely god-awful this place is in this month of July.
But you go for it, because I talk about this at length. I don't want to cherish this moment too much.
Yeah, listen, I'm not a good person to ask because for as a mountain runner, I love the mountains when it's raining. So for me, it's great. But by South African standards, awful, awful rain, sideways rain as well.
Bit of sadomasochism with you, but you're right. Like combination rain, wind, cold, and everybody being miserable and just not doing anything, because that's exactly what happens. Whole place.
You know why it's worse? You know why it's worse in Cape Town is every Capetonian who lives there is generally all about comfort. They're never like about getting to the office. It's just about, I want to go stand up paddle with Brad and the guys. Like that's their whole life. Everything's centered around lifestyle. So when the sideways rains do come, it's just like it's the end of the world. They're like, no, just go to a coffee shop.
Ben, your thoughts on this before we let you go?
I just think it's funny, like when dogs are misbehaving in a garden, you go at them with a hose, and then they sort of calm down. It's like these Instagram Capetonians, and I won't say Capetonians because there's still some decent people, but these Instagram Capetonians that have either moved there from somewhere else or they don't do a whole bunch, so they'll give you the snapshot. You start watering these people down physically with the rain. It's great because then they just sit in the corner, they do nothing. But trust me, they'll come back in September. Oh, it's like you can be anywhere in the world right now. You'll get that shit. Because I think ultimately, like, there's a big difference. Like the Capetonians, who ultimately are Capetonians, they're different. I used to be one. But then the worst is the Instagram Capetonian, who must remind you that they live in the best city in the world, even though they live about half an hour from the beach, and ultimately a place like a glorified Four Ways with a mountain in the way. Yeah, Instagram Capetonians you must watch out for.
Yeah. All right. Ben, have a good weekend. I'm sorry, everybody in your life's getting COVID. That's very shit. It'll be all right.
Just a point in that preachiness and below what you were saying is that I think exercise has taught me about Jesus. Not that I'm a believer or a Christian person, but I understand when you've got something that's the best thing in your mind, you tell people about it all the time because you want them to feel as good as you feel.
Comes from a good place.
It comes from a good place, I think. So, but it must always be tempered with the fact that a lot of people don't give a fuck about what your life is, and that'll be my drop for today.
All right, mic drop. Here he goes. There he is. Ben Karpinski. Cheers, Ben. Bulelo, where is Leigh-Ann this morning? Did she not wake up?
We are on it.
Oh, so she might not have woken up.
Everything,
That's always a concern. That really worries me. I wonder if there are people who've run out of liquor. It's only the first week since Cyril made his announcement. It did catch a lot of people off guard. I know that, very crafty, very resourceful people have already got channels of communication with dealers of various kinds to get supplies of whatever they need at exaggerated prices, obviously. And this is how South Africa works. If they say to us, you need to have a vaccine certificate before you can travel, you bet your bottom dollar 20 to 30% of the people who have procured said certificate will have done it through dodgy means, and it won't be because they had the vaccine. That's how South Africa is. Whenever there is a legitimate way of doing things, this country and its very clever, resourceful people will find a way of doing it their way. It doesn't involve the law.
Do you know guys just planning brides already fully stocked?
Oh yeah. No, one of my mates was talking to me on WhatsApp yesterday, and he lives in Pretoria, and he's like, "What are you doing on Saturday?" So I said, "Probably nothing, because I don't want to plan things." And I do think it's sensible to keep your head down at the moment. I'm not looking for trouble.
Yeah.
So he said, "Oh, okay, well, if you feel like it, we're going to do some day drinking, and I've managed to find plenty of booze. So if you're keen, there'll be about 8 of us, and come through to the house." So I thought, this guy doesn't care. Good for him, getting it together.
I keep hearing this word privilege all the time, but quite frankly, as middle class people, we don't need to be governed. We do a better job of governing ourselves.
Even poor people, it's patronizing. It's patronizing to think that poor people need government. Trust me, the life, and you can talk to everybody knows someone, right? It doesn't matter how privileged you are. I'm so sick of this argument that people don't understand each other's lived experience. I mean, I know people who live in townships, and I know them pretty well, and I ask them about how their lives are as much as I'm asking people who live in mansions in estates how nice their lives are. The fact is, those people in the townships are even more resourceful.
Yeah,
they fucking have to be. No one's helping them along. Daddy and mommy aren't paying for things. There's no trust fund. There's no property you can sell if shit really gets bad. Those people are making a plan to survive every day. So I'm not into this patronizing idea that, of course, you can look after yourself because you have solar panels and a borehole and, you have vitamin C and all of that shit. But the poor, shame, they need the government. It's so patronizing. The poor are probably the ones who've been dealing with a lack of government long before you started coming into contact with that. And we're not talking politics because it is Friday, but you know what I mean.
No, my point was, if you have nice stuff, generally you'll look after it. That's just the way the world is. Now, you can deal with the idiosyncrasy of economic disparity in whatever way you want. My point is, if I have nice stuff, I'm going to go to Gareth and say, hey, how do we look after our nice stuff actually? Even if I don't like you, ultimately I want to serve myself.
And how about, so I don't need that book over there. Do you want that book for a bottle of, I don't know,
exactly,
whatever? And then you'll say,
that
sure.
That was my point. Not to say being poor makes you any less resourceful, but yeah, it's mental. For me, I'm sorry, I don't know why restaurants are closed, and I hate to go back. It's all mental.
Let the people who want to take the risks decide that for themselves, including the waiters and waitresses who don't need Cyril's care and consideration to hold on to their jobs. Frankly, he's killing their lives in a much more direct way. Basitsana says, there's nothing you can't get in South Africa at any given time. That is the truth. Basitsana, spot on. 100%. I'd like to ask Leigh-Ann, when we eventually get to talk to her, I hope she's okay, how her water situation has been, because we're facing at least 4 days without water, says Eleutheria. Jesus, wow. 4 days without water is way, way worse than 10 days without electricity.
Jeez, yeah, without water.
Yo, that's bad.
Oh, no.
Orksy Head says exactly what I was saying. The Shebeen in Langa is still open and at normal prices. Hit me up for a location if you need it. You see? That's what I'm talking about. And nobody's going to go in and police them because they'll do their own thing. They'll figure out their own way, right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. There's nothing you can't get in the hood. Again, Basitsana, spot on. She's preaching truth this morning. The poor are surviving without basic services like water and sewage, stuff government should provide. Well, we're going to try and avoid politics this morning because it's a Friday. But Angus is making T-shirts that say, I identify as vaccinated, so that you can join the woke brigade. Anyone interested?
Me.
Have you seen all the people, sorry, Mbolelo, have you seen all the people who are posting their vaccination pictures now? This is the new attention-seeking pandemic. I'm going to post a picture of me getting the jab. This is important to some people. It's really important. It's like look at me. I'm not only a good person, but I'm safe.
Yeah. By the way, the vaccine's for you. Don't put it on social media, because what does that do for me? When you walk past and you're squeezing mangoes or whatever you're buying. that is. I mean, that's malarkey. That is malarkey.
Oh my God. Yeah.
But who's it for? Gareth, I think you asked a good question there. Who are they posting for, showing that they're vaccine? Is it a virtue signal? I'm over here and I'm better than everyone?
I think it's that. I haven't observed too many of the people I respect and love that I could ask that, because luckily they haven't been the ones posting this stuff. But a lot of people who I'm surprised, frankly, because they are quite self-aware. They're conscious people. There are one or two of them who've put these vaccination pictures up, or, to me, there's an element of it that I'm willing to be quite generous about. Like, I think there's part of it that's like, hey guys, we're all in this. Let's do this. Let's stick together. Because people are being genuinely mentally affected by other people's ups and downs. So they're trying to inject some positivity in. That could be a very valid excuse, in which case I'm okay with it. Frankly, who the hell am I to complain? If you want to share that stuff, cool. It's not a black or white situation. It's gray. But there are a couple of people who are putting it up because, frankly, it's the most interesting thing they have said in 6 months. There's just nothing else. They have nothing else to say. Here's an interesting discussion. Free Shrugs says, have you seen Ollie London, who now identifies as transracial? I identify as trans-British and will be collecting my passport at the High Commission shortly. Yeah, Ollie London. Let me see if I can find a picture of Ollie London for you, because this is really an interesting story. The same people who will tell you that it's very easy for me, based entirely on my psychological predisposition at any given moment, to decide I'm a woman, for example.
Sure.
And that is how it happens. I mean, I can walk into the women's change rooms in certain establishments with full male equipment, and I can be what is essentially what used to be called a pervert. I could tell the women in that bathroom that they may not have a problem with me because I've decided to identify as a woman for the time that I'm in that change room. And there's nothing they can do about it, because there's no objective way of ascertaining whether I'm actually doing this or not for the right reasons. But if I do that with race, like Rachel Dolezal did, I must be lying. That's the way these people see it.
Wow.
And I don't even know where to begin with that, but this Ollie London story is amazing. So Ollie London is a person who has decided I'm going to use the terminology that the trans community like. They, Ollie London, have decided, I know that this is piss poor English, but this is how people talk now. Ollie London has decided that they identify as Korean, as in they watch a lot of K-pop. You know, K-pop is Korean pop music. And there's a certain K-pop singer that Ollie London wants to look like. So Ollie London has been for extensive plastic surgery to make themselves Korean. They're a white person, okay? But they identify as Korean. Here's a picture of Ollie London. That's what Ollie London looks like now.
God.
Ollie London goes on the internet a week ago and says, "Hey guys, just want to say I've almost completed my transition, and it's so good to finally be Korean because, you know, I felt like I was trapped in another person's body, in my English white body.
Yeah.
And now that I'm Korean, I can finally be myself. And I just want to celebrate that by being on the internet and sharing it with all of you." Okay, so justifiably, Ollie London has got a huge amount of shit for this. I say justifiably, but I say it with a good dollop of irony because, as far as I can tell, this is fine if you're transgender. I can go on this show tomorrow, or Monday, because we don't work on Saturdays. Let me not break all the rules. I can go on the show on Monday and I can say, "Bulelo, you know, I've been living a lie for the longest time, and I finally decided it's time for me to transition." And I'll arrive in full drag on Monday morning. And you have to take me seriously. If you say I'm not a woman on Monday, then you're the bigot. Understand?
I do understand what you're saying.
But if I do this with race, like Ollie London has done, then all bets are off. People are saying, "Oh, no. Race is an essential characteristic." But at the same time, gender is completely a social construction. Now, you cannot have it both ways. Either both of these are social constructions because they both have to do with your biology, right? And race is not important. I think that's the whole discussion of the 20th century is like, we are all made of the same genetic material. Black, white, Indian, colored in this country, and all the other races that you get, we're all the same. And if you know, in the apartheid era, you used to identify as X, Y, or Z, you had certain privileges. These days, that doesn't help necessarily. In fact, you could argue it's better at the moment to be a person of color. It's almost like a special category. You get special protections and privileges in, you know, the Olympics, for example, where you can do certain things that the whites can't do. But if you say that you're transracial, you are in big trouble. Rachel Dolezal tried to do that. Didn't work for her. So here's Ollie London. Why can't Ollie London identify as Korean if Caitlyn Jenner can identify as a woman?
Yeah, well, Michael Jackson started all of this. He, you know,
hello, Leigh-Ann Mole. Oh, thank God. Sorry. Thank God you're alive. What happened?
Shame. You know, since Sia left, he had a very important role in my life.
Oh God!
And that was
checking you're alive.
Yeah, and Simpiwe realized that she had that role this morning, and that the baton had been passed. The reason I realized that is because she went, "Oh, thank God you're okay. We just thought something had happened to you."
Well, I'm glad you're okay, because I always wonder, your sleeping Jesus might have fallen off, and you know you
well, the thing is,
breathe.
I didn't have it. There was an unplanned outage last night, so I wasn't wearing it. That's my alarm to wake up. Okay.
Oh no! But Leigh-Ann, if there's an outage, you can't wear it. So how do you live? Because, you know, like George Floyd couldn't breathe. That's your problem at night if you don't have the sleeping Jesus.
It's a very fine line, but I made it through.
Oh, thank God!
What a hero.
The other thing is, I worked a 15-hour day yesterday, so I'm smashed.
No, listen. At least you got work to do for 15 hours. I mean,
exactly.
Keenan,
Keenan,
who messaged us at the start of the show this morning, says he can't wait to get corona because he wants 10 days off to just masturbate. Well, the last part of the sentence we added, but
yeah, well, the artistic license.
No. Okay, quick question. Just, I mean, you're coming in hot here, Leigh-Ann.
Yeah.
What is your feeling on someone being able to change races like Ollie London? You think that's fine?
What was she before?
It's a
What were
well, I
her
don't know if it's,
pronouns before?
I don't know if it's a he or a she, so I'm not going to say. I'm going to say they. Used to be a white person from England, the island off of Europe, but they watched a lot of K-pop and they like K-pop and they
Yeah.
identify with K-pop. So Ollie London went on the internet this week and was panned and ridiculed by everybody, which I think is very unfair, just because Ollie London wanted to identify as Korean and then said, they're finally in the right body. They're finally who they were always meant to be.
We've been doing this for centuries. We've had dark-skinned people pouring their money into skin lightening creams. We've had light-skinned people spending a lot of dangerous time in the sun and applying cooking oil to their bodies. We've had people with dead straight hair who put dangerous chemicals into them to make to have perms. We have people with very like 3C curl hair who have dangerous chemicals
because they want it straightened.
It's nothing that should be slammed. It's something that has been put into us since the days of magazines and social media. It's nothing new.
You see, I said earlier that there's a gray area with things like COVID and the way we talk about that, because you can't be a callous, uncaring individual who doesn't give a shit when someone gets COVID or if someone's in hospital because of COVID. And you also can't be the kind of person who bursts into tears every time someone tells you they have COVID. Those are both not particularly good positions to be. It's all gray. It's in between. With this, you have to surely choose black or white on this.
You know who I blame? I blame guys between the ages of 16 and 25, because actually the people who've put this upon us is usually really hot girls between the ages of 16 and 25. We let them get away with madness because they start to talk about crystals and star signs, and we allow that to be a part of the fabric of the society. But because guys think with their penises at that age, girls can talk about anything, and it's absolutely allowed, and it descends into this madness.
I thought you were going to blame guys of that age because they're busy doing TikTok videos where they all sing a different line from a song, because that's happening. That's a thing at the moment. Have you noticed that? Leigh-Ann knows about this.
I love TikTok, and it's certainly not for only people in their 20s. I follow some amazing women in their 50s and 60s.
Okay,
and
hold on.
men as well.
Hold on. I just want to finish this Ollie London situation. You have to. I'm sorry. You got to choose. We'll come back to TikTok in a moment, and even K-pop. Frankly, you have to choose. Either you can decide to be anything you want to be in your head. Your own feelings matter more than everything else, including reality, biological reality, and you can be anything you want to be. If you want to be a black woman and pretend that you are in a wheelchair, even though you're perfectly physically able, you're white, and you are a man, and you identify as 17, even though you're 63, you must be the person who believes that's the way of the world. Or you must be the person who is the ultimate realist, because anything in between makes you seem cognitively dissonant. If you're going to be the person who is totally into biological reality, then I'm afraid if you're a man, no matter what you think inside or how you feel, you're still a man. And you're black if you're black, and you're white if you're white, and all of that stuff. You're at this age, and there's nothing we can do about your age. You can't identify as a 12-year-old, even if you're 50. And you can't pretend to be physically disabled, because actually that's damn insulting to people who really are. You're either on that side, or you're on the side that everything that you think and that you feel, no matter how detached from reality you are, is fine, and that we all need to honor and respect that. You've got to choose, people. You've got to draw the line in the sand, because if you hate Ollie London for thinking that they are Korean, even though they're not, and you think that's makes a mockery of race, then you can't love Caitlyn Jenner. Somehow this has got to be. There's got to be some regularity here. There's got to be some objective truth. Come on,
listen,
please.
Here's the truth, right? Is if your identity politic is the most interesting thing about you, you're probably a revolting person. If being a black woman, a white man is the most interesting thing about you, it should accentuate what you are at the core. It shouldn't be the defining factor. And if it is, number one, you're not the type of person I want to know, but you're probably a revolting person. I hate to tell you.
Yeah,
you're probably a revolting.
That is the exact line of thinking I have. I'm not going to lambaste a person who's doing this to themselves or makes these decisions.
Sure, they must do whatever they want, but
exactly.
I'm talking about your attitude to them, your attitude to the world.
I might not find them suitable for my friendship needs. I might not find a place for them in my little bubble. But I'm very happy.
Great point, both of you. And no, that's all I was looking for, because we don't all have time. But unfortunately, I do have to remind both of you, you may just not be in the majority anymore. Because if you do go onto social media and you do see what the news media are focused on at the moment, they're not actually focused on people who describe themselves with adjectives. I'm funny, I'm interested in this. They don't look at that. They look at the identifiers. And politicians too are paying huge attention. The LGBT community, for example, which is so weird because L doesn't really like G, doesn't like T. T is completely opposed to L in many ways. B, who knows who they can be friends with, because the G's all think they're lying and the L's think that they're an anomaly. You know what I mean? It's not a community. And when people talk about the X, Y, or Z community, even like the fat community, for example, I've never, ever walked into a room by mistake and go, oh, fuck, I've just walked into the fat community. I'm not allowed here. You know what I mean? Never walked into a room, and I have lesbian friends and I have gay friends and I have bi friends. Never walked into a room and gone, oh, fuck, I've just strayed into the LGBT community. No, I was at a wedding, or I was with some friends, or I was with people I didn't know.
They're just people that you enjoy surrounding yourself with, because they're beyond their titles.
Yeah. Right.
You know? If all this person can speak to me about is their race change and their surgery, then I'm sorry, I'm out.
Yeah. And I think to Leigh-Ann's point, for me, I like a bit of like clarity. Is that, do you want me to treat you the same, or do you want me to treat you equal? Because those are not the same thing. And if you want me to treat you the same as the rest of the world, is when you do things, we all get criticized. By the way, people mustn't think because I'm heterosexual, male, or whatever the
you are.
At least in two categories, you are an oppressor, but in your black category, you're a victim. So you must remember that. Don't you dare jump out of your boxes. We will choose how you should identify, much like the apartheid government used to. Remember them?
Yeah, I remember. But I just want to say, for everything, there must be a consequence, because we all suffer that every day. So please, you must decide before you do your career change, must we treat you the same as everyone else, or do you just want to be equal? Those sound like the same thing, but they're not. I'm not sure. I'm not sure we've got the time to get into it.
They don't want to be treated the same or equally. They want to be treated better. That's why many of these people are doing this stuff. And I'm really not trying to lay into someone who's clearly going through a lot. You know, guys, I really don't bear any ill towards this particular person. I've never met Ollie London. I'm sure that Ollie London would be fascinating dinner conversation, as long as they're not talking about themselves the whole time. The fact is that the vast majority of the people who do this stuff are doing it not because they want to be equal to everyone else, or because they consider themselves a part of the big human tapestry where we're all different. And, you know, I love that stuff. I'm an individualist. They're actually doing it because they want to be treated specially. They want to be treated like they're special. They're the little prince or princess of their world, and you must give them due deference because they've found a way to be extra special that you haven't yet.
They might be so comfortable in their new skin that they present differently at a dinner party.
Sure.
And perhaps they're past their insecurities and actually do have something interesting to offer to the conversation. I mean, we don't know that from a bunch of pictures, but there is, I'm trying to be optimistic here.
Yeah. No, it's a good point.
But the minute you treat them specially, you usually get a very satisfied reaction out of them. That's really the end game for them is for you to kowtow and adjust your language, your behavior, and everything else to suit their idea that in their head that it's like calling someone your majesty. Makes them feel special, even if they're not a king or a queen. All right, here's one, and I know you've got things to say about that, Mbulelo. We'll come to that. We've got Swaziland is on the agenda. We've got to. I know we don't talk politics, but Swaziland's in a bit of trouble. I mean, we've mentioned it in the news a couple of times this week. We've got to talk about Swaziland. The taxi industry. Here's something we're going to talk about after 7. The taxi industry say they're not going to be part of the demerit system. You see, again, equal,
just like
equal
that.
Equal or special. Taxi industry say, what? E-natus, your demerit system. Ha, that's for the tax-paying, law-abiding people whose cars are actually allowed on the road because they're roadworthy. Pa, not us.
I've also decided I'm not going to die.
Yeah, exactly. You identify as living forever. Let's get to that. And then I love this point by Basitsana, which I'd like to get us talking about this morning. We're not going to fuck around today. We're going to get into some issues. Basitsana says, what is the point of aromantics? It's not aromantics. Aromantics are people who are very interested in smell. Aromantics. It's just how you pronounce it. So we'll talk about that because that's also something I don't understand. I met someone last year, and he said to me he's an asexual aromantic.
Yep.
I want to know how that works.
Like that. Yeah.
I want to know how that works. And yes, Oxy Head says it's not Swaziland anymore. It's called Eswatini now. I don't care. I still refer to Yugoslavia sometimes. So, I grew up learning that atlas. Forgive me if I don't call Bangalore by its right name, because they've changed it 3 times since then, or if I don't refer to Pietrutif as whatever that's called now. That's the only place I can identify on the map. I'm not entirely sure. There's a place on the map that they keep putting on the weather, on like the weather apps and on the news. I don't know where this place is because this is about the 3rd name change for this particular place. So I'm not sure.
Not the weather lady who says, and in Limpopo, not that place.
No, I figured out, listen, when South Africa went through the 94 elections and we renamed the provinces and we redefined the borders, I learned that stuff. It was important. But ultimately, if you keep updating your atlas forever, you forget where things are. And I'm a visual guy. I like to know on a map what I'm talking about. There's some places I do not know. If you say the name of what a certain municipality is now, no idea who it is. So forgive me for not saying Eswatini, but that's a novel thing. It's only happened in the last 3 years or so. And so what? It's still run like a fucking handbag.
It is
so until they start to run that place better, and I'm talking to you, King Mswati of Eswatini, then I'm going to call you whatever the fuck I want. I call you Eswatini. I call you basket case shithole country if I want to. Autocracy run by a fucking moron. I can call you whatever I like.
Africa.
Yeah. I'm going to call you Korean. I'm going to call you Korean if you're actually from Korea, not if you present as a British person who's been for plastic surgery to look Korean. Eswatini's backside. It's Swaziland to me. We'll get on with this and a whole lot more. You can tell we're on fire this morning. And I'm so glad Leigh-Ann didn't die in her sleep today, because we were very worried about her for the first hour or half hour this morning. Praise Jesus. Happy Friday, everybody.
There is only one place on Cliff Central for 80s movie recommendations, obscure 80s references, 80s crushes, and it's the only place on Cliff Central with the best 80s songs you forgot how much you loved. That 80s show, Fridays, 9 a.m. on Cliff Central. People say we're stuck in the 80s, like it's a bad thing.
Hi guys, I'm Timothy Maurice, the host of the Brain and Brand Show, and I'm excited to launch a 3-part series on the new phenomenal book called Noise, A Flaw in Human Judgment by Daniel Kahneman, Olivier Saboni, and Cass R. Sunstein. You'll be inspired to understand how the external influences such as time of day, weather, whether or not your sports team won or lost impacts decision making. You're going to enjoy this series. Download it on cliffcentral.com, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, baby, that's Timothy Maurice, and you can find his podcasts on cliffcentral.com. Bulelo.
Yes.
You will be pleased to know, because you're a coffee snob, that my coffee machine, which I had serviced last week, is back, and I can I can finally drink the decent stuff. I managed without for a whole week. Lucky, look at how I suffer.
Quality coffee is an ecosystem. It's an ecosystem. You must have single origin. Obviously, you want artisanal stuff, but anyway, you can get, baby steps. But the machine or the apparatus is as important.
I watched you take delivery of some of your fine, I think it was Kenyan, not so long ago.
It's a mix. All single origin, of course. I mean, I'm not a monster.
So he took delivery of this in the office late last year sometime. I actually took a picture of it and put it on my Instagram because it was so funny. This guy arrives and he goes, hi, I'm looking for, he looks all dodgy, like a drug dealer. Hi, I'm looking for Bulelo. So Bulelo goes, oh, that's me. Guy's got his package. It's all in brown paper. It's like sticky tape over it. Either looked like biltong or like a brick of cocaine. I'm like, what is this? And he goes, no, it's my single origin coffee. He says, he was more excited. And Bulelo's pretty stoic, so he doesn't get excited or very sad. He's kind of on a continuum. Well, he was excited when his coffee arrived. Trust me. He looked, he looked like a pedophile on a school bus.
We all need that in life. We all need that moment. We all need that. We all need the white.
All right, guys. Where do we start? Do you want to start with these aromantics? Because I find this so interesting. And a quick
note on coffee. I find the entire coffee culture obnoxious. I find the machine noises obnoxious.
Those ones go.
So, Leigh-Ann, thank you. That is actually a compliment because I don't believe in inclusivity. I am not for including people. So the more stuff I can do to leave people out, the better my life. I only want to be with the 1%. Yeah, so
just checking because I thought I'd lost you for a moment there.
No, that's one of the
kind of
anyone.
Bulelo's the kind of person who, if he could start a club of one, and he had a place where he could swipe his card, and only he would ever be let in. It would still not be good enough because he would advertise.
He would advertise on Facebook saying, "Join my group now," but he would disable the joinability.
Yeah. And never let anyone in, even if they managed to get through it somehow and come for an interview. You'd be like, no, you're not acceptable. I like that. We've lost appreciation for that stuff. We've lost appreciation for, it used to be really hard to have an Olympic gold medal. There was a club of people who'd physically excelled to the degree that the whole world, in a massive spectator event, decided to award them with a substantial piece, even if it was plated in gold, it was a substantial piece of metal that they were awarded in a huge public ceremony. And they were only if you were an Olympian, you belonged to a very exclusive club. Now, Laurel, whatever its name is, who from New Zealand, who's a 40-something-year-old man who wasn't in that club, identifies as a woman, and now he can join that club by beating all the other women by being a man. That's even not fair anymore.
Worse.
Now it's inclusive. It's inclusive, but it's shit.
Yeah. Even worse. Why skateboarding in? Like you said, it's
come on. That's not a sport.
Like skateboarding and surfing and golf is in now. I mean, they're really diluting that whole thing.
Those are hobbies.
But to what you said, you know why it's so important to me, and these types of things is, for me, the reason I do these types of things and I want to get the best I can afford is whatever I eat and drink tells me what I think about myself, is what I've always said to people. They say snobby, I go, no, I got standards, pal. Keep walking the other way.
Absolutely.
That's it.
All right, let's talk about this, because Basitsana brought it up. It wasn't even something we wanted to necessarily talk about, but it's fascinating. So there are these people who call themselves, and Basitsana, thank you for your message this morning, because that's started us up in a big way. She says, what is the point of aromantics? There is no romantic or sexual attraction at all. How does it work, Ganti? Okay, so as I understand it, that's part of the LGBT. There's an A in there somewhere as well, right at the end, right? Because we always fall off. So most people can get LGBT right, but then after that they forget there's Q, which is for queer, LGBTQI, which is for intersex, which is like there are only about 4 proper intersex people in the whole world, but they've got their own letter. In fact, they've even got their own flag. Then
there's an X in there as well, but it's pronounced a Q, which is, and a C, which is.
I thought that was. It's also to help people with their CASA, right? That's also part of the.
Yes, Kubega, yeah.
But there is an A,
I,
and the A is for yes.
Shall I read it for you?
Go for it. Here we are.
LGBTQQI P2 SAA, which is not a failed airline. Yeah.
2 A's, SAA at the end.
Yes, but not the failed airline. Easy to confuse, but so both are rather.
What are the last? What are the 2 A's? Why are there 2 A's? Is
androgynous and asexual.
Okay.
Okay, asexual. Right. So you know what? I think I know someone in my life who is asexual. We haven't crossed that bridge where we've spoken about it.
Okay.
But I'm actually quite envious of them. You know, I posed the question, do you crave, you know, I started with an example of myself, and I said, I sometimes just need some validation in my life. You know, I need someone to bear witness to what I'm doing every day.
Your existence.
Leigh-Ann's brushing her teeth. Oh, now she's having breakfast. You know, she's doing all these things.
Like someone is watching your Truman Show.
Exactly. Would you not want someone in your life like that? And this person is so independent and not worried about any of that. And they don't have all the drama that goes on with relationships.
Well, I mean, for starters, I completely agree with you. And I hope I didn't sound more, more bigoted than some people would already label me by saying it's weird. But it is. Like most men, and I'm a man, so I don't know any different, spend a huge amount of our time just trying to get laid. Huge amount of our time.
That's very true.
I would say even when you're in super productive mode, you will always find time to try and get laid. Yeah. And men, the whole point of us doing well and being successful and being productive is not really so that we can feel a sense of, you know, self achievement or of worth or any of that stuff. It's really so that someone will sleep with us.
Arthur Schopenhauer, people can look this up. A guy called Arthur Schopenhauer, a really weird guy. He called it the will to life. There's actually some superb writing on it if you want to go and look it up. The will to life. He said, our drive to actually everything is driven by let's reproduce, but the human ego masks it as love or romance in order to trick us into.
I mean, like ultimately, you know, nature is, our DNA runs us. It's not the other way around, and our DNA just wants to make more of itself. So that's understandable. I'm not questioning the way that we think. It's just that's the fact. Is like, and women too. There are a lot of women who are they're craving dick all day long. I mean, there are women who are just thinking about that. So I mean, like Monica, for example, who says here, Monica says, I'm literally the opposite of asexual. Yeah, baby. Good for you. But the fact is, like, there are these extraordinary people. I think they're a tiny, tiny minority. I wish we could put a number on it, because I don't think a lot of asexual people even fill in surveys. They don't need another person. They're not attracted to other people. They don't think about sex like we all do. It's just such a strange paradigm. They're almost like superhumans. Maybe they've evolved to a point where their DNA no longer instructs them on a daily basis like it does for many of us.
Can you imagine how isolated you do feel in that position? Because the entire universe is constructed upon sexual attraction, romance, partnership, relationships. And to come to that realization and acceptance that you don't need those things in your life must be a life-changing moment.
But you already got it wrong at the question, Leigh-Ann, because you said, imagine how isolated. These people don't care. They don't need other people.
Yeah, it's not
so
real.
Isolation's not an issue to them. They're not that worried.
We should force them to become scientists, because actually we know that all of the other stuff we do in life is to actually just waste time until we die. Those people should just be focused in a lab the whole time.
Mr. Chinese Communist Party, stop forcing people to do things. All right,
put them to work.
What if they want to jump on the trampoline all day? That might be what they want to do.
Well, if they can't reproduce, let's get you into the lab. Let's make you productive.
So they can reproduce. They don't. They choose. Technically, Bolelo, do you have children?
Not that I know of.
Leigh-Ann doesn't. Neither do I. We're not asexual. We can still have kids. So can they.
But at least I'm open to the concept of being attracted to someone, thus leading to consensual sex, thus leading to them, because we brought up probability is the game of life, right?
No, but here's the thing: is like we don't know enough about this category of people, and I know that there's a new category every day, so it's very hard for us all to keep up with this. But they might not be people who can't. They might be people who choose not to. That's pretty amazing. Maybe they can maybe to them sex is something they do. Maybe they are even parents. But to them, they had sex in order to make a child, but it was purely mechanical.
That's it.
Do you know how spoiled we are at this time of life? Imagine being asexual or anything that was slightly off the normal calendar or a lower statistic in the days when Rian Kreyvagen used to present the news. So we're talking no internet, only pen pals, really. And pen pals would not have a section, there would not be a section in the magazine that put people's addresses out there for purely asexual people. Thank goodness for now.
It's like it's such a broad category. I agree with you, Leigh-Ann. It's like it's great to be alive right now, and it's great that people are able to identify this way. I sometimes feel like I'm a bit asexual, sometimes, because humans don't always impress me, and that's not because I think I'm better. It's just because you look around the world and you read the news and you see some of the stupid stuff going on, and you think, ugh, like if I were evolved, if I were a superhuman, I wouldn't get involved in all this human stuff. I would want to learn things. And what Bolelo was saying, I know he was being tongue-in-cheek about this, but put them in labs. Like these are the cleverest people. They're not dissuaded and distracted by all of this monkey shit of have to mate. You know what I'm talking about? Like it's the opposite of like being a perfectly self-actualized creature where the physical stuff melts away. But I can't stay there forever. I can't stay there for long. And I wonder if there's anyone who listens to us this morning will admit that they are asexual, and what their because everyone's going to have a different sort of asexuality, what their kind of asexual means. Are you asexual just in terms of you don't have sex, you don't think about sex? Or you're asexual because sex is just not very important to you. Or you're asexual because sex is purely mechanical. Or you're asexual because you actually don't have a good relationship with sex or your genitals or other people's genitals. Like what is your kind of asexual? Because I've got so many questions about this way of living. So many, and it's fascinating to me. And I think these people in some ways are so superior if they're a true asexual.
I'm 100% in agreement with that, because me having a desire for let's be frank, penis in a vagina or a male companion makes me feel animalistic and raw. You know?
Yeah.
You just want to be
This
ravished.
is hard to figure out here. This is really, this is very difficult to fit. You want to be ravished, Leigh-Ann? Did you just
ravish me, baby? make me suffer.
You remember Blackadder and they're out in the battle and the king gets back and the queen is looking out of the window and she goes, "Oh, they are returning from the battle." And the servant goes, "Oh, your majesty, you must be so excited that the king is going to come back and ravish you." And she goes, "Oh no." She goes, "I can't stand it. All he wants to do is use me like the outside of a sausage roll."
And then the best part of that
yeah.
is he thinks the king is dead. She thinks Brian Blessed is dead. And then he comes marching through the door. And because she thought the opposition had won and they were going to come and rape and pillage, obviously. And it turns out to be her husband. And he goes, "I guess you want to ravage me now."
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if there are women in life who've had a change of heart and have become asexual because of the horrible heterosexual sex that they've had to endure all their lives.
Maybe, they've had a bad experience. Well, I mean, here's a good point from Michelle. Some asexual people might want a companion, she says, and that's true. Like they might have love, they might be emotional about people. They might have that emotional connection, but there is no physical connection.
Someone to travel with and share experiences with, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I have. Now that you mention it that way, I have loads of asexual relationships. I have asexual relationships with my family. I have asexual relationships.
Well, thank goodness for that.
With my business partner, I have an asexual relationship with Leigh-Ann and Bolelo. So it's not that hard to think about, right?
But we don't put it that way. Bed.
Yeah, but when you think about it that way, that's a pretty good. Michelle's just given me an aha moment. It's like, obviously, I've got lots of asexual relationships in my life. There are a lot of people I'm not physically attracted to, but they're my friends.
But we live in an age where you could have this relationship. So, some people want the classic feel because of our conditioning. Maybe we sleep together and you just arouse the mind. And then we got to be polyamorous, right? I got to be able to get because unmet needs will be met. Everybody here has experienced cheating or been on the other side.
Correct. So but you said unmet needs. Need is the important question here. Some people don't have those needs. They really don't.
That's if you're asexual and we're together, I have sexual needs, and maybe you fulfill my spiritual needs or whatever. I'm still going to need to, make some contact with other genitalia.
So a lot of people have a spiritual relationship with Jesus, or with Muhammad, or with Buddha, or with Jehovah, or whoever else it is.
Scientology.
They have a spiritual relationship with that. That's an asexual relationship too. I do get it. I get it. I've got lots of asexual relationships in my life. I do understand it suddenly. God, Michelle, it's like a breakthrough thing that you just said.
You do. We all do. Most, let's be honest, 99.9% of our relationships in life are asexual.
Asexual, yeah.
We usually only have 1% partner. But do we even need that?
What's an aromantic? Because I'm not one for general romance, but
I'm gonna cast about here with this because I don't really know the answer, but I would assume, because again in my mind there are 4 ways you connect with people, 4 ways. But the first one is physical, right, which is the asexual people we were just talking about now, or the sexual people we were talking about. Then you get mental or intellectual. That would be like those people who call themselves sapiosexuals, although I don't get that at all because I'm so superficial. Then you get the emotional people, or the ones who connect on emotion. So it's like, when you love someone, but you're not necessarily physically attracted to them. This is like family, for example.
So
I would imagine,
definitions,
or like a really good friend. So emotional, that's where you get the aromantics. So those are the people who do not have. I'm an aromantic in that case.
Yeah. So aromantic's definition is having no interest in or desire for romantic relationships. And the difference between aromantic and asexual, more people are familiar with the term asexual than aromantic. They're similar but not the same. Aromanticism has to do with romantic attraction, and asexuality has to do with sexual attraction.
My name is Gareth, and I am an aromantic.
Hi, Gareth.
There we go. I've never used that.
Buffalo herbs and spices.
I see, like perfume. I've never used that word ever to describe myself. I don't think I've ever used that word, but it kind of fits. It fits reasonably well.
I think it does. It suits you, sir. Also,
you've known me for a long time. If you reckon it fits, I mean, you probably. I've known you longer I've worked with you longer than I've been in any relationship with anyone.
Yeah, we've known each other close to, I don't know.
And you would know, like if you thought I was just jumping on a bandwagon here, you would tell me.
No, I'm happy. I'm very comfortable with your new description, okay. And also,
I think you might be as well, Bulelo.
I still think that you would prefer to have a pill instead of eat.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
Crikey.
Definitely.
Really?
So a romantic getaway with a cook or a chef in Italy is out of the question.
Well, I mean, I could do that. I'm not turned off by the idea, and I can appreciate a good meal. And I have been in love. I'm not a monster, as Bulelo always says. But it's not a priority to me. It's like, some people prioritize watching their favorite TV show. Others prioritize exercise. Others prioritize reading a book.
Or Jesus.
Or Jesus, or whatever, man. I mean, like, you do your thing. But it's further down my list to be in love. I know that it's a tremendous feeling for some people, and it is the energy that gives them life. I get that. So I've felt love.
It can also be the double-edged sword that kills you and stuffs up your entire life if you are that prone and vulnerable to romantic relationships.
What I'm trying to get to here is because we tried to understand asexual just now, and it made like a lot of sense to me when Michelle said, you've got lots of asexual relationships in your life. So I clicked, oh, okay, obviously. So it's not so weird. We all have that already. A part of us all is a little bit asexual when it comes to, the people we work with, the family, etc. So now I'm trying to get my head around aromantic, and like anybody, you have to look to yourself first to try and understand whether or not you've been in that situation. I'm about 80 to 90%, because there's a little room for romance, but it's not big. It's not a huge priority to me. And, this is where Monica says it's sad to hear. But I promise you, I'm not sad. Like I'm really not a sad, depressed person. I don't even know how depression feels on anything but a circumstantial basis. So don't feel sorry.
What Monica means is that it's sad to hear, because maybe Monica is a romantic and she's going because obviously that puts a different lens on life, right? Is that you're only experiencing a part of life. Maybe, Monica, I don't want to speak for her, but I think she's saying that romance brings another dimension to life.
With respect, I did say I have been in love. I know how love feels. So it's not something I've missed out on. It's just different priorities. Again, like this is when people who are religious say to you, "I'll pray for you." It's like,
but it may be akin to someone who's had children, and me perhaps who doesn't want children, or I'm now beyond it. You'll never know what it feels like to be a mother.
Own it, Leigh-Ann.
You mean barren.
Barren. Jesus. Who was it that was on the show?
It was the Carte Blanche chick who's no longer on Carte Blanche, Devi. She was on the show with us, and I joke with Leigh-Ann all the time. We were in the studio in the good old days.
I joked with Leigh-Ann. I'm like, yeah, but you're barren, and I mean, it's a joke we have. Leigh-Ann isn't barren. She just didn't have kids, but you wouldn't know that if you were Devi, right? So she comes into the studio and she's sitting down, and I joke about Leigh-Ann she was horrified. She immediately jumped to Leigh-Ann's defense.
How do you let him speak to you like that? She says.
Listen, while we're talking, I know we've done the aromantic, asexual thing, but today's one of those days where there's just so much flying around, and we still have to talk about the taxis. I just want to show you something quickly. I sent these two pictures to Leigh-Ann. You're on the 80s show today, aren't you?
Oh, so I missed the recording because of a client an exit interview. What are we laughing at? Oh, yes.
No, you
yes.
missed the recording.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So
No,
you missed
so
the. Are you not on? Okay, but you're not on the 80s show this week.
Probably next week. Probably next week.
All right, let me show you this. This is so cool. So Sia was going through the files and reminiscing. He's very nostalgic, and he sent me a couple of pictures from the show, and the first one was this one, which I know we've spoken about her a million times, but it's always one of the funniest stories because she was probably the biggest star at a certain time. Like, she was huge. I've spoken about this before, and I'm sorry if it's boring for you, but Jennifer Rush became like a
Because I am your lady.
That's the one. And you are my man. Yeah. So she became a fan because we interviewed her and she really enjoyed the interview. It was a good interview. You can still listen to it. It's on cliffcentral.com. And she was a great guest because she lived this incredible life. She still lives in New York. And, you know,
what was she
at
doing
a time,
in South Africa?
She was touring. She actually did a show. And I think she was even on Idols. So she thought I was this huge celebrity. Because in America, if you have a radio show and you do a reality TV show, you're a big star, you know, like Ryan Seacrest. So she must have thought I was like Ryan Seacrest in this country. So she obviously thought, like, I'm going to stay in this guy's good books. She added me on social media and shit and all this stuff. But before any of that happened, when she came to the studio for the interview, she was worried about the paparazzi. Again, she thought this is America probably. So I don't think she's insane.
South Africans like hoarding Jennifer Rush.
Well, people went to her show and they loved her. Anyway, so she leopard crawled under a window and into the studio because she was worried that people would get a picture of her. And she wasn't there for pictures.
Was this at Cliff Central Studio?
At Cliff Central Studio. Here's a picture of me with her. Here, look at this. So I'm not making it up. So you know, there's Jennifer Rush. There's me, right? This is what, 3-4 years ago? No, it's not even the studio window. You know that window in the passage between the office and the stairs?
Oh, my Lord.
She was leopard crawling.
Unbelievable.
So Sia sent that to me. And then he sent me this picture of these really, really strong-looking women. These girls who are like bodybuilders. Look at this. And look how pathetic.
Wow.
I look like a little weedy teenager.
You know
these girls are monstrous.
Those new little caterpillars that have been born, and they walk like this. They go wee.
Yes. That's
like that.
No. Well, I mean, I just thought I'd throw those in there in case you needed some visual stimulation this morning, because Sia's been clearing out his files and reminiscing a little bit.
What a life!
So, all right. So back to some other things. The taxis. Let's just talk about them for a second. I'll read you the news story, and you tell me what you make of this. It's unbelievable, all right? Unbelievable. Only in South Africa. The National Taxi Association, NTA, says it will disobey South Africa's new administrative adjudication of road traffic offences, ARTO, as well as the introduction of the country's new demerit system. They will just disobey it. They've decided. The ARTO, that act, will penalise drivers and fleet operators who are guilty of traffic offences or infringements by imposing demerit points that could lead to the suspension or cancellation of licenses, professional driving permits, or operator cards. So the National Taxi Association has decided, just like they did with lockdown. Do you remember lockdown when we were all following those very serious rules at level 5 last year, and the only people who said, and credit to them, were the Taxi Association. And let me tell you,
I mean, the taxi's only 1.6 meters long. Imagine social distancing in there.
It's impossible, right? And they weren't prepared to stop doing business just because government made a rule. Even if people died, they're like, fuck you, we got business to do. If they cared about people dying, they'd roadworthy their taxis. We already know they don't care about people dying. So there is something to be learned from this, and that is civil disobedience. South Africans, fellow South Africans, listen to the story of the Taxi Association. You can get cross about this. You can do what the default reaction is going to be, and you'll see a lot of people go, oh my God, I can't believe these taxis, they live by their own rules. But aren't you envious? Aren't you a little bit jealous that they can live by their own rules, that they're truly free?
I was just thinking that.
Not even Fikile Mbalula and all of the people he's been paying millions to as consultants, we've just found out this week. None of them can tell the taxi bosses what to do.
Yeah,
you should be like them.
I feel a little bit insipid. You know, well, you can't go to the shops now. Okay, I'll order online.
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
Oh, you can't go to work anymore. Okay, I'll work in front of my computer at home. Taxis are like, no way.
Yeah, fuck you.
We will drive.
No, fuck you. And they will. They don't care. And you know what? I know that we have such a love-hate relationship in South Africa with taxis. A lot of people hate, but I love hate because they are the only people who will let you in if you need to cross lanes.
You know what? They'll also protect you in the case of robbery or,
yeah, they will.
Crimes like that.
I mean, we're generalizing. There are really evil people in the taxi industry too. So, and they really do kill many, many people who are just trying to get from work to home or home to work or work to work. So let's not give them a full bill of health here. The fact is, we should all be more like the taxi operators. We should all say, no, this is a dumb rule. This is a dumb system. We're not going to comply.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'm a bit split because everything is suffering. I really like rules in my personal life because when you don't have rules, people sit on their couch and eat Doritos all day and drain the health system, right? I don't like people being left to their own devices en masse because people are terrible at doing the right thing. Terrible. You just need to walk around a shopping mall to see what happens when you leave people to their own devices. So I'm torn because our government doesn't follow rules and now these guys don't. So for me, if you're asking just me, I hate both sides. The ANC can't follow rules, and I hate the fact that the taxis aren't following rules because I think rules are necessary for people, no matter what you say. I don't know what the perfect balance is. I hate lawlessness. I absolutely resent people who just live willy-nilly. So I don't know.
Wow. So an ANC taxi would really get you.
That's my nightmare on earth.
A lot of the taxi buses are actually ANC cadres.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of them
I was going to say.
Yeah, very powerful people in the ANC, especially in places like KwaZulu-Natal. In fact, the taxi operators are almost like political operatives in some ways. They're the main community organizers. They're the ones who have money. They lend people money. Without them, people can't go anywhere or do anything, so they're stuck. They're almost like feudal lords in some way, which is why they feel, and this is what drives me crazy. If a taxi boss feels entitled to disobey the law at will, and they think of themselves as feudal lords, why do you think of yourself as a compliant peasant? Why do you think of yourself, and I'm not saying you do in this case, you may think more like the taxi bosses, which I think is probably healthier in the long run for you, because at least you have individual sovereignty. But you have to look in the mirror and go, am I in charge of my own destiny here, or am I going to comply with stupid rules? And I'm not saying Arto is stupid, because I do think we need traffic rules. So I'm with Mbulelo that I'm torn here. I do think we need traffic rules so that we don't crash into each other all the time and so that the roads can be harmonious.
You know what I think?
What?
I think I'm going to be a traffic cop. Get all the cars to go and stop. Keep everybody on the hop because I'm the traffic cop. Always follow the traffic rules when you are on your way to school. Behave yourself. Don't play the fool. Please obey the rules. Because I will always be your friend. If your car breaks down, then I will lend you engine. So please don't offend your traffic cop friend.
Beautiful. Yay. Oh, marvelous. That's very good, Leigh-Ann. You could be a great traffic cop.
Oh, I would. I love compliance.
Luzanne says, I'm getting a wristband made with WWTBD. What would a taxi bus do?
Oh my gosh, remember those things in school? What would Jesus do?
And then they came out with the Lance Armstrong version, those yellow ones.
Yeah, and then he took roids.
Eleutheria says, it used only to be taxis that jumped stop streets and red traffic signals. Now everyone does it because they don't get penalized. Yes, but it's much worse, Eleutheria, if only certain people get away with it and others don't. I'd rather we were all equal either in order or all equal in chaos. But inequality of the law is an untenable situation for everyone. Rather have equality in chaos than have inequality in law. That's my opinion. You may disagree. You may prefer order and inequality. That's your business.
We're in South Africa. It's order.
Order, comrade. Order.
I prefer order.
The taxi, and DP were pointing out exactly this, that the taxi industry is the real free market in South Africa. Correct. Although they also are in many ways a monopolistic
oligopoly. It's oligopolistic.
Yeah, because they're actually decentralized. Like there's not one taxi boss who runs the whole thing. There are a bunch of different ones, but mostly if they, profit is their motive. So if you know what someone's motive is, you can work with them. That's why I liked Jacob Zuma more than I like Cyril Ramaphosa. I know that's a controversial thing to say, and we're not talking politics on a Friday, but I like Jacob Zuma because you knew he was just a greedy bastard. So you can deal with that. If you know what someone's motivation is, you can figure out a plan where they get what they want and you get what you want. Who still gets upset when a taxi cuts in? That's a good question, lovely Lady Lee. I used to, but I don't get road rage anymore, mostly because I'm not on the road as much.
Yeah,
but also thanks to podcasting and to really, I genuinely will say podcasting has saved my life in many situations because I don't get cross anymore. I'm too busy. I'm focused on listening to someone saying something interesting.
It depends on the day, really, as well. I'm also that sort of passive aggressive person. So I take it and take it and take it and take it, and then I'm like, wow!
You explode.
Then I explode.
But I'd like to hear what you guys think on this before we wrap up. For me, it's why South Africans always struggle that go to Australia and the UK, because that is nanny state to the final level. I lived in the UK for 2 years, but I'm saying, South Africans that leave South Africa, and I'm talking the wealthiest of the wealthy, or just people like you and me that are ordinary, is we struggle because you get there, everything has to be in a form written down. You got to register. You got to. If you want to pay a bricklayer, that must be done in a form. You must have registered. We really struggle, and I think a lot of South Africans come back and have come back because of that. Sometimes living in this wild west we do, when you've got a little extra residual income, I've said it before, is the best life in the world. You can kind of create your own world away from the madness, and you get yourself involved in the madness and then go away. Whereas in Australia, it is the mommy's got her thumb on you 24/7.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking, the intercom rings and it's someone who says, your pavement looks a little bit untidy. Can I sweep it for 15 Rand? And you're like, yeah, actually.
Yeah, that'll be nice.
You just do it.
In Australia, you get fined. I mean, in Arto, I'm sure there is an Arto in Australia. That's probably where we got the idea from. And don't worry, George Meany will also be able to answer our questions about some of this stuff in a moment, because this is his wheelhouse, if you'll pardon the pun. Bulelo, I want to, before we go to George, just wrap up with this comment from somebody. It's very interesting. Melissa, I think she has your number, dude. She knows you. She's figured you out. Melissa says, everything for Mbululilelo, when they lose the plot, starts with someone eating Doritos on the couch. Don't extend isolation, because they will start eating Doritos and lose the plot. I have a suspicion, Mbulelo, that tells us more about you.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
You're full of songs this morning. I like it.
Good stuff. It's good stuff.
Leigh-Ann may have joined us late, but she's on fire. What a morning. Mbulelo, I have a suspicion that you are actually secretly a fat person who wishes to eat Doritos on the couch. And that if we, because what you say you have said it a couple of times. You do this, and that's why I say she's figured you out. She's got your number. She's listened carefully enough to you to be able to pick up on the fact that when you say that about someone who's lost the plot, you're actually referring to the imbulelo that might exist without rules.
Absolutely.
In other words, that secretly your true nature is that you would revert to being a Dorito-eating couch surfer if you didn't have any discipline. If you had no discipline.
Absolutely.
This is like those religious people who say to you, well, without the 10 Commandments or without the threat of hell, people wouldn't do the right thing. That's interesting. It tells us more about you than it does about people.
And absolutely, it's terrible that that's a secret and wasn't clear. I think you have to compel people to do the right thing because ultimately people are predisposed to just gorge, right, and protect themselves and comfort. Melissa, you've nailed it. I absolutely believe that you must compel people to a social standard. Absolutely.
Melissa,
this idea of free will and people are good and they'll do the right thing. That's absolutely nonsense.
Believe it.
I've seen no evidence. And I've seen no evidence.
Still, hugely insightful from Melissa. Very insightful stuff. I mean, this is again why we love doing the show and why I come out of the show feeling more energetic than I do going into it, is because we've got such smart people listening who have such insight, not only into human behavior and the way society works, but into us individually too. And listen, this whole conversation that we've just really scratched the surface of around aromantics and asexuals and people who follow rules and people who break rules. I mean, it's been a hell of an hour. It feels like we've been talking for a day about this stuff. It's and we haven't even begun.
I mean, it's Saturday, isn't it?
Well, I mean, George has been on hold for like 3 hours, but here he is. George Meany. Sorry, George. We kept you waiting, George. How's it going, man?
Yeah, good, and you? How's the 3-hour discussion I've been waiting and listening to?
It's good. It's good shit, though, right? I mean, this hasn't been boring. I mean, I found myself really involved in all of this conversation today.
Yeah, I've been sitting here listening. Before I even entered the studio, I was listening before that, and it's a very interesting set of topics.
So, George, what do you think, first of all, of the fact that the taxi people aren't going to follow Arto?
Well, I saw you picked up on that, Gareth, because it was one of the things that I was gonna bring up this morning, and that is they say they won't follow the rules. Now, you were talking about taxis and whether people like them or dislike them. You know, many years ago, I used to dislike taxis on the road because of their rule breaking and their cutting in front of you. But think about taxis in the following way. There are 16, sometimes 32 people inside that taxi. If every person had a car inside that taxi, you would be gridlocked anyway.
Yeah.
So the sheer scale of the number of people that they carry around means give them a break, let them into traffic, because you would have 60 cars in front of you if it wasn't for that taxi.
Yeah.
You know how people who run their own businesses, they always say, "Oh, I should have more votes because I employ X number of people." By the same logic, if a taxi has 16 people in it, they are doing more for the economy than you are in your car with one, right?
True.
And the environment.
And so actually you make a very valid point.
Yeah.
So I think give them a break. It's not the taxi drivers that are in control of that industry. It's the taxi bosses that are in control of that industry.
Right.
So give the taxi driver a break. He's actually, they actually earn very little for what they do.
Are there taxis who operate independently without being affiliated or having a boss?
I'm sure there are, Leigh-Ann, but I think they're few and far between because you have to belong to their associations.
Yeah.
Hang on. There are those people. They're called Uber drivers.
Oh, yes, that's true.
Yeah, that's them.
The first story I have is just down your alley, Gareth. Nothing to do with taxis, but maybe to do with air taxis. That is
suit you down your alley, sir. Oh,
Down Wiley. A Slovakian company by the name of Klein Vision has done its first inner city flight in a eVTOL, which is a flying car. It's not vertical and it's not a vertical takeoff. It needs a runway, but it is called the Air Car, built by the Slovakian company.
Yes, I love air cars. Tell me more.
And it flew from a place called Nitra and landed 35 minutes later in a place in Slovakia called Bratislava.
That's the capital city.
Yes.
Very nice place. Yeah.
Right.
Never been there in Bolelo, so you know.
Bolelo's been everywhere. So
my ex-girlfriend is Slovakian. No, my ex-girlfriend is Slovakian. That's how I've been to Bratislava. Great place. And everyone there, George, is as good looking as you are.
Oh, thanks.
Are there long enough streets to do these landings on in these cars?
You know what? I'll be honest. My girlfriend was better looking than me. I was looking at her the whole time. I didn't really look at the. Yeah, she was too good for me at the time.
No, so it still needs a runway, Leigh-Ann.
Right.
They've had a series of prototypes. He's been working on this thing for 30 years, Gareth. 30 years.
You know what? This is where I'm blown away by human ingenuity. The guy's been at it for 30 years, and he gets to test it, and it gets like 2 minutes on our show, and people go, "Oh, that's nice. That's a great thing." You know, this is not some idiot tinkering to figure out a new video game which millions of people will play. He's genuinely advancing human civilization. Good for him.
Good for him, exactly. So he's got about 40 air hours, and he's landed and taken off and landed 142 times with this air car. And at the moment,
George, I just want to be a billionaire, not so that I can have a huge bank balance. It's so that I can just give this guy like a couple of $100 million to advance it even further, and to get a bunch of other people on his team, and then I can buy the first car that they make, and I'll fly that thing around. I don't care if it's dangerous. Bring it on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this has a ballistic parachute, Gareth. So if you're more than 300 feet off the ground, you can pull the ballistic chute, and you can go floating down on a parachute. So there is a fail-safe backup. Magic stuff. So I didn't know this, but the Italian airport, Bologna, I don't even know how to say that. Bologna. There we go. Oh, like spaghetti bolognese.
That's because it comes from there.
Or lasagna.
Yes.
There we go. They use what's called a chase car or a follow me car on their runways. Yes. And that is to guide the aeroplanes from the end of the runway to its parking spot.
Can't they see?
I'm assuming that it's a show, and it's something that they do for the spectacle. And the reason I say that is because they have just bought a brand new Lamborghini Huracan to escort the airplanes off the runway.
Nice. Isn't Italy?
It's a shame that poor Lamborghini's like, please, can I just live my best life and go fast?
That's unbelievable.
But they do. George, don't they also have a police, like a certain division of the police, the traffic police force, that have these Ferraris and Lamborghinis and these supercars, right?
Yes, very much like Dubai. So
right.
I've never been to Italy, but from the pictures and the stuff I've seen on the internet, it doesn't look like those streets are made for sports cars. It's not like they have an autobahn. Maybe they got some highways around the edges, but
old and decrepit, George. You're not missing anything. Italy is old and breaking down, and they don't pay taxes. It's old and breaking down.
Cobblestone roads, and So maybe the runway is the best place for that Lamborghini.
Yeah, maybe it does. Maybe it has an hour's playtime, like a dog. Every day, it can just go up and down the runways.
George, every Friday when we talk to you, you're either in an airplane hangar, or you're inside a car, or you driving down the highway, or there's always something going on. So Treasure, who's one of our listeners, wants to know, where are you this morning?
Good question. I was wondering when someone was going to ask.
Yeah, because I don't recognize any of your surroundings. You're not in your study. Looks like you're almost. Are you in a hotel?
I'm in a guest house.
I'm
in a guest house in none other than Bloemfontein.
How did you get to travel out? How did you write yourself a letter as the CEO of Auto Trader and that says that you're allowed to travel for leisure? Is that what you did? You broke the rules?
No. I actually came down here pre-lockdown to visit my folks, and during my visit to my folks, our president locked us down. So I have a legitimate reason to go home.
Yeah.
So are you allowed to leave the Free State ever again?
That's a good question, but I do have an affidavit with me in the car that
George, don't lie. You're just like the taxi industry. You make your own rules, George. We don't mind. I promise.
He's got the stationery making kit with stamps and everything.
Yes. But he just, I mean, like he can type up, he can print something on his own laptop that says George Meany, an employee of Auto Trader, needs to be in Bloemfontein for business, and he can sign it George Meany, and they won't even question it, right? I mean, I can do that for Cliff Central. You can.
Well, you know what? When I went to the police station to get this affidavit stamped to cross the Gauteng border today, the policeman said to me, "Where did you get this form?" I said to him, "The government website."
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a genuine form. It's one that you have to put in.
This is the Free State where Ace Magashule paid someone 5 or 6 million rand to do a website because they'd never heard of websites in the Free State before. We are talking about a very backward place, George.
Well, I mean, when you drive here, it is there are vast amounts of open, barren land that you have to cross, and I wonder how the internet even crosses those areas.
Tell me, since you're in Bloemfontein, I'm always fascinated by one thing about the Free State that people who've never been there don't realize is how absolutely bone-achingly cold it can get in the middle of winter.
It is
the worst. Yeah.
It is -2 here in the morning. -2. It feels like -200. It is cold. It is very cold.
George, are you from Bloemfontein?
It's a dry cold. It's not like Bulelo, you've been in snow and you know what that's like. And if the sun is shining in the snow, it actually feels quite nice. It's temperate and lovely. But in Bloemfontein, early in the morning, when there is no moisture in the air at all, and it climbs into you, man. You could feel it in your teeth.
In your
bones.
Yeah, let me tell you a traumatic story. Is if you played rugby at a boys' school, and there's a really famous trip that we all do on the train to go and play Grey Bloem. That is the most excruciating thing. And you get there, and there's little 7-year-olds, as you are freezing in about 10 layers. They are kalfoot, and they are just flattening every other school.
Met the kortbroek.
Kortbroek and no shoes.
Because they grew up. Yeah. That's
George.
That's why.
Did you grow up in Bloem?
No, I didn't. I actually grew up half my life in Cape Town. My parents run the drug rehabilitation center in Nopwood.
Why did you have to put rehabilitation behind that? Otherwise, it would have been so cool.
You've ruined Leigh-Ann's morning. She hates rehabilitation centers. But George, I was going to give you a compliment. I was going to say that's why you're so tough if you'd grown up in Bloemfontein, but you took it away from me. All right, what else do you have for us?
Well, I've got one more story, but before I go there, I drove down here with my electric car.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
And I must tell you, it was an experience. When I left Joburg pre-lockdown, just putting that out there. When I left Joburg pre-lockdown, I was honestly a little bit nervous.
Where do you charge it in Bloem?
Well, you don't. You drive to Kroonstad. That's the first charging point, and then the second charging point is at the Windmill Casino down the road, where you can charge the car. I charged it there last night, so it's fully charged, ready to go this morning. And then the next charge point is in Colesberg at that big engine garage. They've got a very cool little place on the side that you can charge the car. So,
how long does it take you to charge the car?
Well, this is the thing that I found. I found out two things on my trip. The first thing I found out was that the 30 kilowatt charger in Kroonstad, I had to sit there for 1 hour and 45 minutes.
Well, at least at the windmill, you can play the slot machines while you're waiting.
Not on the lockdown, but yes. The second, the second charger, which here in Bloemfontein, is a 60 kilowatt charger. That's pretty quick. That you sit for an hour or less, depending on what charge the car at what state the car is at when you get here. But that's not the important part. The important part is I thought I knew a lot about electric cars. I found out that there's an inverse relationship between an electric car and an internal combustion engine in the following way. With an internal combustion engine, highway driving, it is more fuel efficient. With an electric car, highway driving is less energy efficient.
Really?
Wow. Okay. Yes. So with the I-Pace that I have, the car generally in an urban cycle does 400 kilometers on a charge. With highway driving, doing 120 k's an hour, I got 300 kilometers on a charge.
Interesting. You see, and you only know these things if you experience it.
That is because the car has to use more energy to push through the air. When you're driving slowly, you use less energy because you don't have to push the air.
Wind resistance.
Exactly.
But it doesn't 25% difference, George. I mean, that's a massive factor.
Yeah,
it's a big deal.
So that's quite an important consideration, because you think your car can do 400 k's, but when you're doing 120 k's an hour, you can lose 20 to 25%. And then if you get a strong headwind, that 25% is going to go up.
Sure. All right. Well, you see, this is the first bit of not extremely enthusiastic positive news you've given us about electric cars, and I'm glad, because people were saying, "Oh, George is such an electric car fan. He's just a fanboy. He doesn't give us any of this." So this is some honesty. All those people who had a problem with George talking about electric cars, like the taxi industry said, he's just told you the truth about consumption on the highways. There we go. Exactly. That's why we have you on, George.
Very, very lastly, Gareth, the No South African zero drinking and driving regulation is only now set to come into effect in 2022.
That's because that's when we will be able to buy alcohol again.
Yes, correct. No.
But there have been some delays, and the Department of Transport thought they could get this bill through Parliament quickly and it be in place by 1 July, but it's not looking like it's happening. And they're battling to get the bill through. And there's quite a few organizations and associations pushing against this law or this bill. So it looks like it's only going to come into effect mid next year.
I can't believe we're already at 4 minutes past 8. It feels like we just started the show. So it's obviously been a busy morning. I hope that we, managed to get everything in. We've still got loads of stuff that we wanted to talk about. We'll have to save for Monday. George, thank you very much for being on the show this morning. Most especially, thank you for listening to us, being part of it.
I've got to go because I'm just going to drink and drive while I can.
Yes, good idea. Well done, Leigh-Ann. And then you'll end up at George's parents' rehab center. That's where you're going to go. All right. Bulelo and Leigh-Ann and I will see you Monday morning. And George will be back with the Auto Central show on Monday too. Have an excellent weekend, everybody. Be good and stay safe, stay home, or whatever they say these days. Cheers. I'll see you later.